They wrote you off, dismissed you as insignificant, convinced themselves that you were just another forgettable soul among the billions who live and die without leaving a mark. You were supposed to fade, supposed to crumble under the weight of their indifference, supposed to believe their version of your fate. But that is the thing about those who underestimate others. They mistake silence for surrender. They do not understand that some are built for slow, quiet ascents, that the ones who are ignored often have the most to prove. And now you are the story they cannot escape, the name that lingers on their tongues, the presence that haunts them, the one who refused to die in obscurity. The ones who rise do not do so out of comfort. They do not come from the warmth of acceptance, from the safety of validation, from the luxury of an easy road. No, they rise because they were denied everything, because their backs were against the wall, because they had no choice but to carve their own path, because the only way forward was through fire. And fire does not destroy those who become it. It refines, it hardens, it rebuilds what was once considered broken into something untouchable. Modern society thrives on discarding people. It sets expectations, and the moment you do not meet them, you are labeled a failure. It rewards the polished, the already successful, the ones who fit neatly into the machine of perception. But what it fears, what it cannot control, are the ones who refuse to play by its rules. The ones who were cast aside but kept moving, who were told they were finished but kept writing the next chapter. The ones who were laughed at, doubted, dismissed, until they became too undeniable to ignore. Psychologically, rejection is supposed to break you. The human mind is wired for social acceptance, for belonging, for the comfort of being recognized as worthy. But some are built differently. Some take rejection as fuel, as evidence that the world must be proven wrong, as a challenge rather than a death sentence. The average mind folds under exclusion. But the mind, built for greatness, it thrives in exile. It finds power in solitude, finds fire in being overlooked, finds purpose in proving itself to a world that turned its back. You have seen this happen. The people who doubted you once, watching from the sidelines, whispering, realizing too late that they miscalculated. They wrote the ending to your story without realizing you were still writing. They spoke of your limits before you had even begun. And now they are forced to acknowledge what they tried to erase, forced to witness the ascent they never saw coming, forced to reconcile the version of you they created in their minds with the reality of what you have become. In relationships, in power dynamics, in every structure where people judge too soon, this pattern repeats. Someone is cast aside, underestimated, discarded as irrelevant. And for a while, it seems as if the world was right to forget them. But what happens when the forgotten refuses to stay forgotten? What happens when the one who is supposed to be nothing becomes something too powerful to ignore? Regret, backtracking. And suddenly the same voices that once dismissed you are speaking your name again. But this time, with respect, with envy, with the realization that they misjudged the ending too soon. The greatest revenge is not anger. It is relevance. It is becoming something so undeniable, so successful, so unshakably present, that the ones who discarded you are forced to watch in silence. It is proving that the pen was always in your hand, that no one else had the authority to write your conclusion, that they were nothing more than an irrelevant footnote in a book that belongs to you. And That is the kind of victory that cannot be taken away. The ones who rise against all odds do not do so with permission. They are not granted the luxury of an easy path. They are forced to find strength in the absence of support, forced to create momentum when none exists, forced to build a kingdom from the ruins of their own rejection. And that is why their success is so much more than personal. It is a monument to every person who was ever told they were not enough. It is proof that the world does not decide who matters. You decide that for yourself. So let them watch. Let them realize too late what they missed. Let them choke on their own dismissal. You are not just proving them wrong, you are proving yourself right. The road was never meant to be easy. The validation was never meant to come freely. The acceptance was never meant to be given at the beginning. It was always meant to be earned in blood, in sweat, in ruthless persistence. And now you stand at the precipice of your own legend. Keep writing. Keep building what was supposed to remain unwritten. Because those who once wrote you off, they are no longer authors in your story. Time is going to pass, whether you use it or waste it, whether you move forward or remain stagnant, whether you fight or surrender. The clock does not pause for your doubts, your hesitation, your endless contemplation of how long it will take. That is the trap. The illusion that time is something to be negotiated with, something that should align with your impatience, something that should yield to your comfort. But time does not care. It keeps moving. And the only question that matters is whether you are moving with it. People love to tell themselves that progress takes too long, that the road is too uncertain, that if the result is not immediate, then maybe it is not worth the effort. But what is the alternative? Sitting in the same place, year after year, watching others build, watching others fight, watching others create something out of nothing while you wait. Wait for the perfect conditions, the right motivation, the magic moment where everything falls into place. But that moment, it does not exist. You either start now or you stay behind forever. In relationships, in business, in personal evolution, the same rule applies. Commit or decay. You do not get to avoid effort just because the process is slow. You do not get to skip the struggle just because it takes longer than you'd like. You have nothing better to do than to build yourself. What else would you do? Fill the void with distractions? Chase temporary pleasure? Bury yourself in mindless entertainment just to numb the pain of knowing you could be more? That is what the weak do. And you? You are not built to be weak. The mind seeks escape when the work ahead looks overwhelming. It convinces you that since the process is long, since the reward is distant, since the struggle is guaranteed, then maybe it is not worth it at all. But let's be honest. Where would that time go otherwise? You think avoiding the work saves you from effort, but all it does is waste years on nothingness. The time will pass anyway. The question is, will you have something to show for it? Psychologically, people overestimate short-term effort and underestimate long-term results. They believe change should happen overnight, that pain should bring instant reward, that suffering should come with immediate compensation. And when it does not, they quit. But the truth is brutal. The ones who endure are the ones who win. Not because they are the most talented, not because they have the easiest path, not because luck favors them, but because they did not stop while everyone else did. They understood the simplest rule of life. Nothing happens unless you make it happen, and the timeline is irrelevant. You have seen this before. People who gave up too soon, who abandoned the fight, who who walked away from the battle just because it took longer than they expected. And where are they now? Nowhere. Regretting. Watching others who kept going, who stayed in the war, who endured the grind, and eventually got everything they wanted. You do not want to be one of those people. The ones who look back in bitterness, knowing they could have been something more, but lacked the discipline to claim it. The ego hates slow progress. It wants the reward without the patience, the recognition without the sacrifice, the victory without the war. And so, it whispers excuses. 12 months is too long. 12 years is impossible. The work is too much. But what is the alternative? 12 months wasted in regret? 12 years wasted in mediocrity? The time is going to pass anyway. You may as well spend it building something that will outlive you. In relationships, this principle holds true. People walk away from something meaningful because growth takes time. They chase instant gratification, a new thrill, an easier option, only to find themselves in the same cycle, repeating the same mistakes, facing the same emptiness, wondering why nothing changes. The answer is simple, because nothing changes until you commit to the work, no matter how long it takes. Whether it is self-improvement, emotional mastery, or building something unbreakable, you cannot rush the process. The strongest minds do not measure time in days, in weeks, in immediate results. They measure time in legacy, in impact, in the unshakable reality that what they are building is not meant for the impatient. They know that what is truly worthwhile takes years, decades, lifetimes. And so, they rest their obsession with speed and replace it with obsession for endurance. While others chase what is fast and temporary, they build what will last forever. So ask yourself, where will you be in 12 months? 12 years? Will you have something to show for the time that passed? Or will you be standing in the ruins of wasted potential, wondering why you never committed to the fight? The clock does not stop. The time will pass either way. And the ones who win? They are the ones who understand that the length of the journey does not matter.